Hey everyone, welcome back. So, we've got a lot to unpack today. We're talking China and Trump, the Iran war fallout, what's happening in Congress, and a potential oil crisis that not enough people are talking about. Let's get into it. So, the big story right now is Trump's visit to Beijing to meet Xi Jinping. And honestly, the way both sides are spinning this is fascinating because depending on who you ask, everyone won. Trump came back saying it was a fantastic trip, great deals, amazing relationship. She said he was very happy with the meeting, called it historic, asked Trump if they could be partners instead of rivals. They had tea in the gardens. She promised to send Trump some rose seeds from the garden. And Trump called Xi a great leader and a genuine friend. On the trade side, China is buying at least 200 Boeing aircraft. They're renewing import licenses for hundreds of American meat processing facilities, and they will likely be buying significant amounts of American soybeans. Both sides agreed to set up a joint trade council to handle disputes before they escalate into tariff wars. Jensen Huang from Nvidia was also in the delegation trying to restart chip sales conversations with China. On Taiwan, she warned Trump directly that if the Taiwan issue isn't handled carefully, it could lead to conflict. But here's the thing, Taiwan wasn't even mentioned in the joint statement after the meeting. Trump was asked about it and just ignored the questions. So for now, it's been quietly set aside. On Iran, both leaders agreed in a joint statement that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and that Iran should never have nuclear weapons. Trump said they have very similar feelings about ending the war. Now, here's the really interesting part, and this is what most coverage misses completely. Because what actually happened in Beijing goes much deeper than tea and trade deals. This is about two completely different time horizons colliding. China is operating on what analysts describe using Mao's old framework, the Long March strategy. Build quietly, avoid direct confrontation, let your rival make mistakes, and wait for the decisive moment. And Chinese state media is pretty open about this being the model. Xi himself praised this kind of strategic patience publicly about a year ago. China's goal from this meeting was simple: buy time. Keep the US calm for at least the next 3 years, basically through the end of Trump's term, while continuing to expand economically, diplomatically, and technologically. That's what they mean by constructive strategic stability, which is the phrase Chinese media is using to describe the new relationship. Trump's goal was completely different. He needed a win he could show people now: soybeans, planes, meat deals, stuff he can point to. And he got that. So both sides genuinely got what they came for, just on completely different timescales. She is playing a 30-year game. Trump is playing a 2-year game. And that's exactly why both can walk away happy. She also raised the Thucydides trap directly, the idea from ancient Greece that when a rising power challenges a dominant one, war becomes almost inevitable. He literally asked in the Great Hall of the People, can China and the United States break that pattern? Whether they can or not is a whole other question. But the fact that China is framing the relationship this way tells you a lot about how they see themselves right now. Now let's move to the next topic, the intelligence report. China won the Iran war. Now this one is wild. While Trump was in Beijing shaking hands with Xi, a classified US intelligence assessment leaked, and it basically says China has been quietly winning the US-Iran war across every dimension: military, economic, diplomatic, and informational. The report was prepared for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and caused genuine alarm inside the Pentagon. Here's what it found. While the US and its ally were fighting Iran, China was selling weapons to Gulf states, American allies who needed to defend their oil infrastructure. China also stepped in to supply fuel and refined petroleum products to countries like Australia, the Philippines, and Thailand, which were running low because the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked. This made China look like the responsible, helpful global partner, while the US looked like the one who caused the problem. On top of that, the war has burned through massive stockpiles of American missiles, interceptors, and cruise missiles, exactly the weapons that would be needed in any future confrontation over Taiwan. US military equipment in the Middle East has been damaged or destroyed. And because Chinese personnel are embedded all over the Gulf region as economic partners, they've been able to observe exactly how the US military fights, which they can now use to plan around American tactics. The report also notes that China has been positioning itself as the defender of the rules-based international order, the very thing the US built after World War II and is now walking away from. The Pentagon spokesperson pushed back hard, calling any suggestion that the balance of power shifted away from the US fundamentally false. But the fact that this report exists and leaked when it did, right during Trump's Beijing visit, is not accidental. Someone wanted it out there. Okay, the next topic is Congress and the Iran war. So, what's happening back home with the war? Congress is still divided and increasingly frustrated. There was another vote this week in the House to invoke the War Powers Act and force Trump to get congressional authorization to continue the conflict. It ended in a tie, 212 to 212. Three Republicans crossed over and joined Democrats, but one Democrat voted against, which killed it. The War Powers Act requires the president to get congressional approval to continue military operations beyond 60 days. That deadline passed 2 weeks ago. Trump's position is that the ceasefire reset the clock, so technically he's saying there's no active conflict right now, meaning if he restarts it, he gets another 60 days. Legally, the administration is essentially arguing that 1 day of ceasefire followed by resumed fighting counts as a new authorization window. Critics are calling that a loophole that could allow a president to wage war indefinitely. Senator Murkowski, one of the few Republicans willing to push back, said publicly she will oppose any attempt to redefine hostilities in a way that lets the president wage war without end. Meanwhile, General Kane and Admiral Cooper spent 14 hours being grilled by Congress this week and said almost nothing useful. Cooper was asked whether he anticipated Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz and the oil impact. His answer was basically, "We always analyze all possible scenarios." Asked if Iran's resistance surprised him, he said, "I always assume the enemy will resist." 14 hours of that. The one moment that did break through, Cooper admitted that the team inside Central Command responsible for investigating civilian casualties has been reduced from 10 officers to 1. Secretary Hexet eliminated most of those positions. The New York Times documented damage to 22 schools and 17 healthcare facilities. The Iranian Red Crescent reported over 760 schools and 316 healthcare facilities damaged or destroyed. Human rights organizations put the civilian death toll at over 1,700. Cooper said only one civilian incident was known to him, a school strike that killed 175 people, and called it the only known case out of 13,600 strikes. Nobody in the room found that credible. Now, the last topic today is the oil crisis nobody is talking about. This last segment is the one I think deserves way more attention than it's getting. The Strait of Hormuz has been blocked for about 2.5 months now, and so far global markets haven't completely panicked, and here's why. Countries opened their strategic reserves. Tankers that left before the blockade kept arriving for weeks, and there was already an unusual supply surplus on global markets going into the conflict. Russian and Iranian oil that was sitting on tankers waiting for buyers also helped cushion the blow. But that buffer is running out fast. According to the International Energy Agency, global oil inventories dropped by 250 million barrels in March and April alone. JP Morgan published a report called The Illusion of Abundance, warning that if the strait stays closed, oil stocks in wealthy nations could hit what they call operational stress levels next month and minimum system levels by September. Countries like India, Thailand, and Taiwan are already approaching critical shortfalls, not in crude oil, but in refined products, jet fuel, diesel, heating oil, things that keep planes flying and trucks moving. Brent crude is currently around $105 a barrel, down from a peak of $118 in late March, but analysts are warning it could hit $130 or $140 if the blockade continues. And here's something important people aren't factoring in. Even if the strait opens tomorrow, getting shipping back to normal takes 2 to 3 months minimum just to clear the mines. Iran was reportedly dropping mines from small motorboats, some carrying up to 10 mines at a time, with no detailed records of where they were placed. You can't just sail through that. The 32 IEA member states have released 164 million barrels from reserves so far. Sounds like a lot until you realize the strait was moving roughly 10 million barrels a day, so that reserve release covers maybe 16 days of what was lost. And once those reserves are spent, they will need to be rebuilt. The IEA estimates that takes 1 million barrels a day for 3 years. The countries most exposed right now aren't in the West, it's Asia. And if one of those economies tips into a supply crisis, the panic could spread to global markets fast. Okay, so that's where things stand. Trump and Xi both leave Beijing claiming victory. China's intelligence services are reportedly studying every move the US made in Iran. Congress is one vote away from potentially forcing the president's hand on the war. And a slow-motion oil supply crisis is building in the background that markets haven't fully priced in yet. If you found this useful, please hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.